Thank you. Good morning, everybody. How great is it to get out of the office after this winter, and the newness and the freshness of just in the room and the energy today have just immediately struck me when I walked in. And it's nice to see a lot of cool new advertisers with our established advertisers who are here. You know, I've come to see these business breakfasts as WCBS's way of helping you help our communities and our families, because you provide the jobs. And if WCBS can facilitate the growth in business and education, you know, that is a very good day for a big media company. And the more we do these, the more I believe in them. And I shouldn't say this because all regions are equal, but I live in Connecticut like many of you, and this actually is one of my favorite breakfasts of the year, the Stamford Rye area breakfast, because I have known some of the business owners here for a long time now. We go back, and I've watched as your businesses have grown and evolved, and I've always learned and been inspired by your energy and imagination at the way that you instinctively see solutions and new opportunities. It just always impresses me. And for me, coming to these breakfasts, I was thinking today, is kind of like opening a regular financial statement that's almost always up and is always optimistic and is constantly readjusting the plan. I was talking yesterday to a business person I've known for a long time. He was telling me about a channel of distribution that has been disrupted and gone way down because of the internet and changes in technology. And I said to him, so what do you do? And he said, you find a way around it, as he has been doing for 20 years. In this case, the way he's finding a way around the disruption, just for the interest of an audience like this, is that he is starting to offer some of the services that providers in that channel used to send to him. And he's offering those services at a lower rate than the providers in that channel used to charge in order to keep some of those clients coming in. And then he is selling those clients a premium for new services in his specialty that he can provide better. It's constant juggling, it's constant rebalancing, but I think I'm going to remember that quote for a long time. I said, you know, he said, this channel's gone away. I said, so what do? You find a way around it. And that's what impresses me so much about covering entrepreneurs and business owners. So the format today is simple. We'll take our poll. We'll call the panelists up. I'll ask them a few questions to get us started, and then the program is yours to take where you want. I have seen these polls that we do over the years at these breakfasts as much more honestly accurate indicators of business for the next 6 months than any report from Washington or Wall Street, and I've said that many times. I may call on you if you say business is up, or if you raise your hand, I may call on you. We'll have people who will come with a microphone, but sometimes just to do it rapidly, they can't get around humanly as fast as they may call on you. So if there's no one with a mic, just shout out and speak up. And anybody who speaks today, just before we get to it, is of course invited to give their name and say what their business is and what you do. But if you like, I want to try something today. If you want, state if you are looking to make a new contact currently to buy some new product and service. You know, say I'm in the market for new carpeting for our offices. So that if somebody here provides that service, they can come over to you and talk to you after the breakfast, and you may find a new supplier or new client right here today. I saw this done at one of the best networking events that I ever covered. They leave 5 minutes at the end of their program to go around the entire room, it's not as big as this, to let anybody say if they are looking for a contact someplace. It was very effective. The day that I was there, I remember somebody, you know, at this table said, I'm looking for a new contact at the Yotel Hotel in Midtown. Somebody at a table up in the back of the room said, we just put new windows in the CEO's house. Come see me. That is networking. Now, I don't know if we'll hit a home run like that here today, but maybe. So if the market to buy something, say so if you like. Let's do our show of hands. Whose business is up over a year ago? Who's up over last year? Let me just see. Pretty good. Hands up, let's see, because that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Let's ask some of you, what business are you in, sir?
We have 7 offices in Southwest Connecticut. I'm probably loud enough without the mic. Okay.
He's like Phil Donahue, remember?
Right. We have 7 offices in Southwest Connecticut, and we service 2 hospitals, Bridgeport Hospital and St. Vincent's.
What's your specialty?
Diagnostic radiology. We have 31 radiologists who work with us. We have about 200 employees. And we're actually looking for a marketing director.
Oh boy, you're looking for marketing people? And you'll probably find marketing people who specialize in physicians. Yeah. Probably right here. He's right here. And do you know that in the last couple of years, we have started to attract many more physicians and educators to these breakfasts because the doctors and the educators are both saying we have to become more entrepreneurial.
Yes, not only more entrepreneurial, but we need to educate our patients. Patients have high deductibles, and there's a vast difference in cost between going to one of the big hospital systems and going to an independent provider. There are facility fees that the hospitals charge. The hospitals are buying up a lot of private practices. The private practice of medicine is actually fading from the landscape in Fairfield County and elsewhere.
So your business is up?
So our business is up because I think the patients realize that they're going to pay a fraction of what they would pay at the hospital. For example, an x-ray at the hospital is over $500. In our office, it's $50.
So how do you make your profit?
Part of it is volume, part of it is lower overhead than the hospital.
Lower overhead.
And the bottom line is we're very efficient in what we do.
Good for you, good for you. Way back there, somebody who said they were up, had a hand, way up. Or maybe you were in marketing. He's right down here. Who's up? Right over here. Yes. I'm sorry, right behind. I'm sorry, yep.
How are you, Joe?
Hey.
Joe Capola with Capola Construction. How are you?
Oh, Capola Construction.
We came to the event last year, and we're here looking into the CBS Business Breakfast, and I met some great alliances. I reached out to the Connecticut Small Business Development Center, put an employee back to work, created a job, got grant money from the state. The University of Connecticut helped us out tremendously. I think Chris is here, and also UConn. And business is up 25%.
What do you do? Build what?
Luxury homes, remodeling, kitchens and bathrooms, all site work. And now
Wow.
Chris is working with us at the SBDC with bonding. So we're working
for
on
you.
the next step. So we appreciate everything that CBS has
That's
done.
great. A few more. Back right over here. Business up.
You got it? Hi, I'm Barry Schwimmer. I run Stanford Innovation Center. And we're obviously big fans and proponents of entrepreneurship. We also had a great experience here last year at your breakfast. And I got to tell you, after your breakfast and after you were kind enough to mention our facility on your radio broadcast, we had dozens of people calling us for interest in what we do and so thank you.
You're a co-working space and a
Yes,
incubator and all of these things?
We have co-working events, dedicated offices, and a whole range of services to help entrepreneurs.
It's great. Every time I come to Stanford, frequently I hear buzz about the Innovation Center, also
Well,
known
thank
as
you.
the I Center. Good for you. Over here, business is up.
Hi, Sally Coda. I've been here before with Coda Inc. in Mahwah, New Jersey. We do graphics material. I started a new business with my partner here called Ettinger, and we're a luxury leather line out of London. So very high-end, mostly men's products.
Leather?
Leather goods. So
Oh, there you go,
wallets,
yep.
coat wallets. So their business is up and growing. So it's very handcrafted in Britain. So we're seeing like an increase here in the U.S. market.
And you're with them or you're with their marketing firm?
We're with them as their U.S. agents.
You're their U.S. sales agent.
Right. They had an agent out in California. They're trying to make much more headway in the New York market.
And what's the trick to, in an economy where salaries have not risen, how are you selling premium products?
You know what? I think the appeal for the product, it's kind of twofold. There's a high-end individual that always has the money, but it's also somebody like a woman will go out and spend $500 on a pocketbook. It's a luxury item, a men's wallet that costs $250, $300. A person will go spend that the same way they'll go spend, $5 on a Starbucks coffee. So it's got the appeal of luxury without, you're not buying a yacht. You're buying something that's really affordable. But
Wow.
it's a high-end
Affordable
product.
luxury, right? It's almost like
Yeah.
a non sequitur, but
Yeah.
that's how competitive
Just
it
to
is.
add to this, the pleasure of doing this is it carries the royal warrant from the HRH Prince of Wales.
Well, there
which
you
is
go. I
really
can't
a
top
nice-
that. Sold.
And it,
See, and that's the feature.
it feels, the luxury
That's
is that
cool.
because it's handcrafted. There's a
Sale
on our
made.
website.
Stop.
Yeah.
2 more.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Rose, and my company is called Collaborex. And what we do is we facilitate business networking groups. So I'm targeting to meet everyone in this room. What we do is ours are different. We use the power of LinkedIn to introduce people specifically to the company and individuals they want to meet. Come to the group, you open your laptops, you say you want to meet Joe Connolly. We see if he's a first connection of someone in the group or a strong second connection.
What is the key in the networking business to differentiate your network from all the other networking groups?
Most networking groups, you stand up, you say what you do, you say, I'm a financial professional, I'm looking to meet these types of people, you tell people what
Right.
you want to do, and you hope that you meet people that know other people that want to that need your products and services and introduce you.
Right.
In mine, you stand up and you say, I want to meet a particular person. You name a name. I want to meet Fred Jones, who's the CEO of this company. We open up our laptops, we log into our LinkedIn profiles, and we type in Fred Jones. Someone says there are 18 people in the room that are all well connected that I've vetted.
I get it. Cool.
Right. So it's direct. Every meeting, you meet 2 people that you've deemed are most important to you.
That's and you do that. That's interesting. It's like what I said about saying I'm looking for a contact at
Exactly.
Yotel, and that brings to mind the idea. I covered a talk up at Yale recently. There's a professor there, and he made the point. We hear this sometimes, but he made it. We hear, well, sometimes just turn the whole business model around. And that's what you've done. Instead of saying, I sell this, I'm looking for somebody. And the professor brought out an item, and he put it on the table. And he said, you say this won't work? Just absolutely turn it upside down, because sometimes it's something theoreticians say, and it doesn't work in practicality. And he brings up a Heinz ketchup bottle. Remember how they used to stand on the bottom? All these new ones, they literally turned the ketchup bottle upside down. That's the same thing.
Mine is a new behavior that I'm trying to teach people that there's a more direct way of doing it.
That's cool.
And it's right for some people, and other people, they would prefer tradition.
Name of your business is?
Collaborex.
Elaboras.
Collaborex. It's collaboration and exchange.
Exit Collaborex. And one more, my business up, then we'll bring the panel up.
My name is Mark Weiss. I'm with Stanford Mortgage. We're a subsidiary of the Savings Bank of Danbury. And what we're known for is extraordinary service, and also the bank has a philosophy that every employee has to give back. It's a funny thing that when you volunteer your time in some community activity, and there's a wide range of them that we participate in, that it gets us a lot of attention. And in a very competitive marketplace, it's not only the pricing, which is very good, but it's also the quality of what you do and who you are.
Isn't that true? You're a mortgage company?
Stanford Mortgage is
Yeah.
the largest Fannie Mae lender in Stanford, and we're owned by the Savings Bank of Danbury.
Well, that's well said. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. That's just a tip of the iceberg of what we'll hear more of today. Come on up, our panelists. Friends, please meet our speakers, Susan, Daniel, and Connor. Today, as they come on up, you're going to hear from a woman who founded and sold 2 businesses including Seat Guru, who is now leading the disruption and reinvention of the entire United States real estate industry, after having founded and sold 2 businesses of her own, Susan Damer from Zillow. You'll hear from Daniel Raymond, a neuroscientist who built supercomputers to develop new drugs, and who before that designed avionics systems for Israeli Air Force F-16s. But what have you really been doing? And aside from that, he's probably a professional tennis player. I don't know. But both of those, the supercomputers and the F-16s, were easy compared to what Daniel is doing now, which is trying to get cars down 2nd Avenue through Manhattan traffic on demand. And you'll hear from Connor, a man who left a job on Wall Street to open a craft brewery in Stamford. And you should know, as Tim mentioned, that to do that, he first went back to business school to get his master's degree by creating his business plan at the University of Connecticut, one of our sponsors here today. And UConn, I think that you're the first sponsor ever to have one of your alumni as a speaker at one of these CBS events. So UConn, Stanford, thank you, congratulations to you and to all of UConn. Let me just start with Susan. Susan, how did Zillow, in, I don't know, what, 3, 4, 5 years, absolutely disrupt and change an entire industry from up out of nowhere, it seemed to me?
I think the one word that describes it would be transparency. And Zillow essentially turned on the lights in an industry, which is real estate, where traditionally information was really hard to get. And so Zillow went out, got information, declared they were going to be the database of all homes. We now have 100 million homes online, on mobile. You can look at estimates and prices, and really gave the consumer access to something that they didn't have access to before.
Did the industry fight you like mad, or did you
Still
sneak
does.
up on them? Still does.
Still does, yeah. Yeah, there's definitely friction there, and I'm sure there are some people from real estate here as well. But yeah, it's an interesting situation. There are industry people who have embraced it and have said, this is great, you're getting our information, our contacts, to a much wider audience than we ever could, right? Zillow can invest millions more in technology and media than most real estate companies, and so our feeling is we do that heavy lifting for real estate. Of course, there are still people who feel as though we've taken some of that away from them. So there is that friction, but the consumer, from our view, has spoken. The consumer loves what we're doing, loves our mobile apps, loves our mobile experience, and loves what we've provided. And then in turn, we connect all of those consumers at the right time, right place, to the right professionals. So.
And what suggestion could you make to business owners who want to share in the success, become a partner of, do business through a big company like an Uber or an Airbnb or a Zillow? How did they get a piece of the action even of a big disruptor like yours?
It depends, and that might not be the right business model for you as well. You have to think about that piece. Does it line up? Does it not? And I think actually Daniel would be pretty versed to answer that question as well. The really nice thing about these new companies like an Uber is they have built networks and software without really having a lot of overhead. And so obviously they have overhead in terms of engineers, in terms of marketing costs, but something like Uber is brilliant because they don't own any of the cars that you get in. They have harnessed that from people out in the world and created that network. And so if you can create those type of network effects, you will find yourself able to hook into things like Uber or Zillow, where you take advantage of something that is out there, harness that, and then you can hook that into something that already exists.
Because most of your revenues at Zillow come from advertisements from the industry that you've come in and tipped over, right? Or realtors.
Yes, correct.
Fascinating.
Yeah, we're providing more contacts and more visibility than agents have gotten in the past. And yes, they pay for that visibility to be there.
Fascinating. Daniel, how did you have the nerve, the vision, dare to say, I see an opening for me in shared luxury transportation. I see an opening for me between Uber and taxi cabs.
So, thanks, Joe. I would say where we saw the opening was between Uber and taxi cabs and the bus system. Between very affordable, very...
Want to bring it back just a little bit, or bring it up on you? Yep.
Between very affordable, inexpensive public transit that wasn't perhaps as efficient or as convenient for many people, and taxis or limos, Uber, whether you're booking them on your phone through Uber or Lyft, or whether you're hailing them down on the street or calling them, in between those two modes of transportation, we identified a really interesting niche that we thought we could harness. And it was really quite easy. Once we saw, so my partner Oren and I, once we saw that opportunity, it just seemed like a no-brainer to just go for it.
No-brainer, easy for you to say. Isn't that interesting then? You saw that actually there was already somebody else between Uber and a cab, the bus, and then you improved on what was already there.
Right, so if you think about it, in New York City now, it's $275 to take an MTA bus or the subway, and the typical taxi trip will cost you $15. Uber will typically be more expensive. Somewhere in between there's quite a lot of room, and there are quite a lot of people who might want to have a different experience than the bus or the subway, either because they don't like the physical experience or because the physical grid on which these services run, the routes up and down the avenue, just don't match the trip that they want to take. If you know Manhattan, for example, every time you want to go across town, it's pretty tough. And maybe they don't want to pay $15 or $20 or so to take a cab. And in between there, we thought there was a terrific opportunity.
And Daniel laughed when I asked him the question that he always gets. Don't tell me this is the airport super shuttle.
Right. So, this is always a tough one for us. I think it's a really appealing analogy because everybody knows the airport super shuttle. I think the quality of service we're shooting for is quite different. We don't wait for the car to fill up and make you wait for 20 minutes until the vehicle leaves. It's really, the entire experience is entirely seamless. It feels just like an Uber or a Lyft, a Halo if you've used them in London. You call the car, it comes to pick you up and takes you on its way. The nice thing about it is because we have such density in New York City, and there are many other cities in the US where this could work, we're able to do that really quickly and put a lot of other people into the car with you to drive the cost down without you really having to do anything. So we're shooting for a very different experience.
The more you talk about it, and I look at your advertisements, the more I see that. There are also two things that Susan and Daniel do that I found interesting. One is that Susan was telling me that with Zillow, they do something that very few big corporate mentality companies would do, and that is they run Zillow and Street Easy. They don't have to put the big Zillow name on every product because Street Easy is the Manhattan version. So, and you're buying Trulia, right?
Yeah, and we'll operate Trulia as a separate brand as well, and it's a similar strategy to what you'd see in travel. So Expedia now owns Orbitz, they own Travelocity. You wouldn't know that, right? You have a preference as a consumer. You go to Travelocity, you love it. You go to Expedia, you prefer that. Someone else prefers Kayak, but a lot of these are all owned by the same folks, but operating differently.
And yeah, so if we buy Trulia, there are people who like Trulia, fine, let them keep using Trulia. We don't need our Zillow on there. Right. And Daniel was telling me that he is able to test marketing slogans. One is shared luxury transportation, the other is cheaper than Uber or whatever it is. But that the slogan on their app, which works the best, varies zip code to zip code within Manhattan. Isn't that fascinating? They say test your slogans, but you're really seeing that makes sense.
Right, so I think one of the neat things about the technology that's out there today is it allows you to test different things very quickly and at a very high resolution. So you can test, as Joe was describing, you can test different things like slogans, how consumers respond to them by zip code and by various other metrics, by demographics and so forth, and figure out whether there's actually a difference, whether it makes a difference to you, whether it's worth investing in that further, and just really tweak your message based on the audience, which makes a big difference.
And all of our panelists can talk, if you want, about how important it is for smaller businesses to start to do business on mobile devices, phones, and tablets. After all this technology, I need a beer. Oh,
Sounds good to me.
my head is spinning at 9:30 in the morning.
We might be able to help you with that.
How's business down at the brewery?
So business is great. We've had a pretty wild kind of 2 years. We started in 2012, just towards the tail end. In 2014, we were up 80% over what we did in 2013, and we're kind of on pace to double that again this year. So it's, sales have been great. We've also just had a canning line come in yesterday, so we're expanding the type of packaging that we're doing. We just had a number of tanks come in, whereas you have a number of businesses that are a little bit more of this kind of web-based type of companies. We're very old school in that it's a lot of equipment and machinery and bright, shiny stainless steel.
Now, has anyone here ever been to Half Full Brewery?
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and you're right near here, right?
Literally, if you went out the door, I almost walked here when I saw the line of cars coming up here, but it's about 2
Wow.
blocks just through the wall here.
Wow. And how are you growing so fast?
So our thing, and I think this will probably resonate with a lot of you, is we're in a commodity business. If we actually had every single beer that was available in this room, you'd be able to choose between, I think, about 15 to 16,000 different beers. So for us to grow, it's really about kind of reinvesting locally. We do a lot of different local partnerships. UConn, right? I've been there to speak to their class. They've actually had MBAs come in and consult with us. We do stuff with local coffee shops. We did a beer with them. Stanford Innovation Center, we're actually getting involved in a number of events that they have, including the Startup Weekend. And so for us, it's kind of reinvesting locally, but it's also, because we are in a commodity business, it's about selling really more than just beer. We have a real kind of brand voice at Half Full. We're trying to intoxicate you kind of with this passion that we have. And so we spend a lot of time sweating the details of how our message comes across and how we can be more than just a brewery located in a physical space, but a brewery that stands for something a little bit bigger.
It's interesting, and these local, and like you were saying with the mortgages, and local, I think, is coming back. Not that it ever really went away, but the big word in marketing now is authentic.
Absolutely.
And there have been some stories in this winter about the state of Minneapolis. The state of Minnesota wanted to expand marketing, and anyway, they decided that what they had to do was be authentic, because the word authentic matches with local. And the people said, embrace the cold. Don't make believe that it's not 0 degrees every day there. And they built a whole industry, and they're selling snowshoes and skis, and they're embracing Minnesota. It's the same thing that happened with these goose down Arctic Explorer jackets that are everywhere this winter with the Arctic Explorer logo. And actually, in that case, Bain Capital came in and took them over. And they decided, instead of broadening out and trying to come up with, a Bermuda short summer line for Arctic Explorer, they embraced the roots that this company has made products in Canada since 1955, and Bain really put a lot of money behind it, and they have just taken off. So the last question before we get to the audience, what, to you, Connor, is the key to selling a premium-priced product?
Well, so like I kind of alluded to before, one is selling more than just a commodity, so trying to be different some way, somehow, right? We're not the Homestead Avenue Brewery, that's our address. There's a lot of breweries like that, but we're the Half Full brewery, we're about the glass being half full. So it's having something more than just beer to sell. But the other thing is we spend a lot of time, and we just actually hired 3 people in to spend time going out and personally connecting with all of our accounts. So we're, you talk about being authentic. We are going in and literally customizing pitches by account, every single bar, every single restaurant.
Tell me though, indeed, just specifically, because you told me in the interview we did on the radio, that you look at their menu and say which beer.
Exactly. So we will go on and we'll look at what they have as a lineup, and we'll say, okay, they don't have this style beer, they don't have an amber, and they really need that to complement the other beers that they have. We'll also look at their menu and say, hey, we think that our bright ale, our core beer, goes really well with seafood, and they've got a couple different dishes. So, we're gonna tell them, hey, 1, we think you should bring this in because it goes well with your menu, but 2, we're gonna actually speak with your staff and tell them about how to talk about the beer with the menu and give them sound bites themselves so that they feel more educated, more interested in selling it. So one of the approaches we take is, let's put ourselves in their shoes. How do we make them money? And then back into how we want to sell them based on that. So it's very kind of, account by account customized stuff.
Right, and one of the ones that I liked was, we're more expensive, you told clients, so if you bring us in, your employees are going to be happier because they'll make higher tips.
Exactly.
But it's, it just strikes me as an authentic, it obviously, as soon as you started to explain what beer goes with what food, somebody spent time making this sales pitch. It's not a make-believe, phony, customized sales pitch.
Exactly. We just went through all this training. I brought in 2 new salespeople 2 weeks ago, and the first kind of slide of training was, you're not salespeople. You guys are consultants. You are partners, right? So go in there and figure out how to make them money, and then in turn, we'll make money. So it's really trying to help them out rather than just sell them the goods, have it go in and then, move on to the next person.
And Connor, on the story we did on the radio, also said that the key to selling a premium product is to get it into people's hands.
Absolutely.
And once they try it, they like it. But that would apply, for instance, as we were saying, even to someone who's maybe in professional services, because Connor said you have to give people a sense of what it's going to be like to work with you. So if it's going out and getting that beer in my hand to taste it, that's what you have to do. If you're a consultant, it might be that you have to give a half hour or an hour free consultation so they can see what it's going to be like to work with you, and then say, so that's why this costs more.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. Let's open it up to some of your questions. Thank you, panelists, and let's go wherever you want to go. Right here.
Good morning. Thank you so much to the presenters. My name is Carol Sherwin. I'm with SCORE New York Metro in the Westchester chapter. We provide free professional small business consulting to a range of small business owners who are really just bootstrapping and come to our mentors for advice and perspective on a full range of business strategy issues. You folks have all started businesses. If you could reflect back for a moment to the very early stages where it might have just been you and your fuzzy bunny slippers, what was your toughest challenge as a small business entrepreneur, and how did you get past that challenge when you were first getting started? Thank you.
Yeah, good one.
Sure. I think the hardest part is visibility, is getting people to know who you are, where you are, what you do. And you can have the greatest product in the world, but if no one knows about it, it's not going to do very well. And so that kind of marketing piece, we've always taken a really grassroots approach, and Zillow did as well, to public relations, which I think is a large piece. I think public relations can cover a lot of topics. One, it's trying to get as much press as you can, whether it's sponsoring events, it's letting press know that you will talk about anything, anytime, anywhere, even if it's not your core competency, that they can call you and you call them back quickly. I think also press encompasses customer support, which is something Connor just touched on. I think these days people think everyone's moving so quickly, but the high touch approach pays dividends. When you actually spend the time, when you get back to people, that's tremendous, and people start to talk about you, refer you, say how great it was to do business with you, and people are looking to do business with good people, and people who they think have ethics and do good things. So that's another part of PR that's really interesting.
It's a slog. It's a slog
Yeah,
to get
it is.
visibility.
It's a big slog. And then also managing yourself online. I think a lot of people spend time in the wrong places these days. There's a lot of noise with social media and, launching a Twitter handle tomorrow for your business isn't really going to work. I think it's about managing who you are on Yelp, who you are also in Google. Like, how do people find you? They type things into Google. You better be those top names that come up when they type in mortgage, local, Connecticut, small business. Like, that's where your visibility is going to come from. So sometimes it's a bit more organic than having a marketing campaign in a local newspaper that no one's going to see. So you have to really be thoughtful about it.
That's one of the most concise pieces of advice I've heard on that. Boil it all down. If I heard you right, Susan, you just said Yelp and SEO.
Yeah.
Those are the two. Not Facebook, not LinkedIn. If you were named two, it's Yelp and SEO. Thank you. Do either of you want to mention the toughest challenge when you started?
So I think for me, my personal experience, it was really starting a new business is a little bit overwhelming. There's so many things that you need to do, and you need to do them yourselves. You need to deal with recruiting. You know, if you're starting a startup company, you need to raise funding. You need to find employees. You need to find space to work at. You need to get your name out. You need to acquire. You need to build your product. And there are just so many things to do. And I think the toughest thing that I experienced was how do you make the right decisions about what to focus on. And I think the lesson that, if I had any, was you really need to focus on what is the core of your business. What are those very few things that are key to your business, and try to not do all those other things. So then you really never get to the point. So I think it's this prioritization and making kind of good decisions about what is the key things you really need to focus on.
And that's great advice. And you, I bet, had to say no to people who wanted to be associated with you, who came to you with ideas. And you have to say no to some of those, right? Because you're working on something else.
Right, so just one example, right? We needed to find ways to find drivers who would work with us, and there's so many different ways to do that. You could partner with limo companies, you could partner directly with drivers, you could buy cars and hire your own drivers, and many people want to talk to you about working with you. It can be endless, and you really need to decide figure out very quickly what the right strategy is, and pick it, and then focus. So maybe focus in one. If you want concise, maybe focus is the right word.
Which was to find drivers? Which was the best route for you?
So in our specific industry, it was to partner directly with drivers, not with individual drivers to come work with us.
How'd you find them, though?
So that's interesting. I think that's where you need to. People want to do business with good people, I think is right. So we get 90+% of our drivers through referrals from other drivers.
Because the limo companies didn't want to be your partner.
No, so again, I spoke with a ton of limo companies. Most did not want to be our partner.
Right. Both of these ran into resistance. Another way to come up with the idea is to quit your job and go back to college and think about it for a couple of years.
Absolutely. Yeah, we when I decided I wanted to really do this and jump in, I said I want to do this the right way. I want to be a product expert in it, so I actually went. After Wall Street, went and worked at a brewery for a couple months before I went back to UConn. And then I spent 2 years writing the whole business plan for it. And for me, the challenge in the beginning was really getting organized, right? There's so many things being thrown at you. What thing do you do first? How do you get it, for us, from this idea to an actual production plant? I had never built anything like that in my life, and all of a sudden I was dealing with contractors and I had no idea what I was doing. So for us, it was, okay, there's a million different priorities and things that we gotta get organized with. What can we do? And we've really kind of turned to technology for that. There's a million different apps. I tend to like to say that I'm a victim of my own apps. We use Asana for project management. We use Slack for internal communication with the company. That's a real big issue as a small company. We're in a 5,400 square foot space. People run into each other all the time on the way to the bathroom. They mention something in passing. They think that has sunk in with that person, but it actually hasn't. So we use Slack, which is a great communication tool to get everyone on the same page.
Is Slack.com?
Yes, Slack.com. And it was something I read on First Round Review, which is a great kind of newsletter.
What was the first one you mentioned before Slack?
Asana, A-S-A-N-A.
What's that?
It's a product management app, so you can say, okay, I need Charlotte, who's here and doing our social media over here. It's like, Charlotte, I need you to do some social media stuff for this breakfast tomorrow. And I put it on Slack and I assign it to her, and then she knows because it pops up on her phone and in her email. So it's a great project management app. And then we use Evernote. That's kind of like our final one, which is just basically an electronic notebook. We've gotten rid of everything, all the notepads. You know, I had notes on here from this morning, and this is on my iPad and on my computer. So organization was a big thing with use technology. And then brand awareness, as Susan mentioned, was really tough. We're going up against Bud Miller Coors. Bud just took out a major Super Bowl ad to make fun of a lot of different brewers. We have a peach wheat ale. We have a pumpkin ale. They are our best sellers, and they made fun of both. But you know, for us, it's going into these existing environments and saying, hey, you've been having Budweiser come in here and buy you flat screens and do different things for years, and you know, we're going to come in here and sell you why it's important to partner with a local business, you know, and think about how we can, you know, prosper together.
If they made fun of you, you've made it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's neat
That's
positioning
really
too.
good.
A subtle attack. You know, we're not coming in here giving you flat screen TVs.
Exactly.
No, we do the beer. You know, and also, Connor, my name is Connolly, so I can say that I've never thought I'd hear anyone last name Horrigan work in a brewery for only 2 months. Most of the people I know would still be at the brewery researching this business plan.
Good point.
Question.
Hi, my name is Chris Tella. I'm a marketing professional. I specialize in doing go-to-market strategies, mostly in high tech. So this is an interesting conversation about marketing technology, and I'm curious to ask the three of you if you're engaged in the concept of inbound marketing, if you're employing inbound marketing philosophies versus traditional outbound.
Do you want to start? Or?
I think, you know, in terms of inbound marketing philosophies, a lot of what we do, we've been juggling a lot as a small business. A lot of people coming in trying to pitch us different things and ways we can kind of grow our business. You know, we've traditionally kind of tried to stick to a couple things that we really understand and that we can kind of get the biggest bang for our buck. So far, you know, in what we've done in a couple of years is we've just used kind of social media to really kind of blow up our business, get our brand feel out there, get our brand voice out there, that sort of thing. So we don't really employ it.
Anything to add or not, or we'll move on? Inbound?
I mean, the only thing I'll say is that Street Easy, which is what I now run for Zillow, they had originally built like a homegrown feedback system. We get hundreds and hundreds of emails every day from real estate agents asking questions about the site or their listings on the site, that type of thing. And they had built a homegrown system that became really, really difficult to maintain. Just the inbound, keeping track of it, how to sort things out between different customer support employees. And so we're right now, this week, in the midst of moving over to Zendesk, which is a much meatier software. They specialize in this, and that's going to be a big improvement for us. And that's just a comment on choosing to build or buy technology. That was a decision that was made that was maybe right at the time, but as the business grew, we had to make a new decision to account for higher volume, different needs.
That must have been a nightmare. Hundreds of emails a day that you had to respond to.
Yeah, I mean, still, we get hundreds, and Zillow gets thousands a day.
And you're spending a lot of money for Zendesk. I mean, this is a big expenditure, I would assume, for you. It's the nuts and bolts.
Yep, but from an organizational and resource perspective, you know, that if you can have one less customer support person because you have the right system that funnels everything and makes it easier to track, get back to people faster, then it becomes worth it over the long time.
Daniel, you run your business entirely, if I understand correctly, almost on an app. Inbound, outbound, everything. It's all on just one app.
Right. So I mean, we also get a lot of email.
Yeah.
New Yorkers have opinions that they like to voice with us about their transportation. Some of them are convinced, for example, that we take the wrong lane down 2nd Avenue. We should be in the right lane. Or something. But I think, you know, one thing we've experienced on the marketing side is that we do pretty much no marketing. I think we're quite fortunate in that our entire growth is organic, with almost all of it, again, by word of mouth on the consumer side as well. And I think that on the one hand, I can say, well, we're fortunate, or maybe we've built a good product, but I think there's a lot more to it than that. I think the way to do that is, first you have to have a great product, but you also have to create the right environment for that to happen. So you have to build into your product or into your service a way for people to tell other people about your product. And that's something that if you play some of those games on your phone, like Candy Crush or you know, similar games, they're just exceptionally good at, right? They're really good at making their actual product viral, and they put that virality right into the product. And we found that when we built a referral system into our app versus having people go to the website and tell us about their friends who they wanted to refer to our service, referrals just blew up dramatically. So there are a lot of things you can do if you want to save on traditional marketing by building into your service or into your product, so it's easy for people to tell other people about it. And I think the other thing is people tell other people about it when they love the product. So I love Zillow. It sounds like people love the beer, and it's trying to create that feeling of sort of real of a love brand, as I've heard it called. Just helps you tremendously on marketing and reduces your marketing costs. And one way to get at that is really exceptional customer service. So for us, every time a trip is concluded on our system, we have an automated sort of thing that runs in the back end that reviews that ride for many different parameters. And we've identified what makes for a good experience and what makes for a bad experience. And we automatically reach out to that person proactively if we think that experience was not up to our standard.
Oh,
And,
come
you
on.
know, if it crosses a certain
This
threshold.
is all unbelievable. Wait a minute. So your computer, or supercomputer, will tell you
Just
if you
computer.
think someone's ride wasn't right, and then you will call them?
Right, so
without them complaining?
Yeah, so we won't call. We don't do telephone. But we'll
yeah.
scrub. We'll scrub every ride
Dated.
at the end of the day, or within a few hours, and identify whether that experience was a good or a bad one. And we've tried over time to hone those criteria so we really know what makes for a good or bad experience. And if it crosses certain thresholds of being a negative, and with New York traffic, we just can't control everything. So sometimes something happens and we're X minutes late, right, beyond our threshold. And we'll reach out to that person, and if it crosses a really severe threshold, we'll offer them a free ride. We'll try to keep them engaged with the service. And I think people respond so well to being reached out to proactively when they've had a negative experience that just kind of marks itself, right? So we'll hear back say, yeah, I waited for too long in the cold. I really wasn't going to use your service again, but you reached out to me. I've told 20 friends about it. Right?
Is it? And also, just one more thing on what Daniel said. Susan talks about the importance of Yelp. He has customer reviews on the app, but you built a referral system into the app, and I think anyone could probably do that on your website, right? Build a referral system right in there. Do you give any incentive whatsoever for the referral, or no?
So we do, and then that's our primary marketing cost. We give $10 of free ride credit for each party, the referrer and the referee, when they take their first ride. So yeah, we do.
Your
So
biggest marketing cost is referrals,
Right.
paying for referrals. Interesting. Wow, you got a lot of confidence in the product. That's neat, Susan.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that as well is, unfortunately, the negative people are often the loudest, and it's also really important that we connect with the people who are positive. And so even reaching out to the people who have great experiences, or have they had a good experience, and when they have, to leverage those people and to build relationships with them as well, or to ask them to write something on Yelp, or to ask them to be an advocate, or to send them something for the holidays every December, but to also keep those ties, not just pay attention to the negative folks, but to also pay attention to the positive folks.
We got 25 minutes to go. Let's get some more questions. Let's get one over here. Jonathan, who you got?
So my name is Joe Sack, and I'm a consultant to financial trade associations. And the question I have is, how important is online video in the scheme of things?
It completely depends on your industry and who your consumers are. And that's for all of these things. There's no prescription. We couldn't run our business without taking emails or phone calls from people. We would fail because the people who we work with require that, and we have to provide that to them. So I think it's the same thing with video, is you just have to know who your consumers are. Does it work? Does it not work? And as Daniel said, the beauty of marketing today is you can do a lot of testing really easily, and you can easily determine whether those things are doing what you need them to do in comparison to other mediums.
I'm interested. That's a good question, and I am a little bit surprised that the panelists did not jump onto that, because the big media has me, which I'm part of, has me believing that video is hot for smaller businesses. Anybody here happy or excited about what they're doing with video on their website or on their social media? Is using videos getting any of you sales? I'm going to come back to David on something else. Yeah. Yeah. Video.
Hi, I'm Patty Marm with the SBDC, and one of my clients is called Big Idea Video. And we actually use them on the SBDC website. We provide advisory services for entrepreneurs. I personally work with a lot of high-tech companies that are looking for funding. The key with these videos is this particular entrepreneur is from Madison Avenue, and he thinks in 30, 60, 90-second bites, so he gets a big idea, an explanation across very quickly within the time frame that their attention time frame.
And you put it on where? Social media, website, everywhere? Where do you then use the videos?
It's for their websites. It's on our website.
For the websites.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Because to tell you, I'm thinking about how to use video for your business as a topic for an upcoming event, but I'm not certain. Videos, winner, loser, waste of time, what?
Hello, my name's Glenn McDermott from Red Rock Branding, and I'd just like to speak to the video piece. It's such an important way of getting a face and an identity to your brand, so I'd highly recommend it.
Videos.
Yep.
One more on videos. Good experience from videos. Are they worth the time and expense and effort or not?
Yeah, we do a video that shows the manufacturing process of the product. And since we have a physical product, it's very hard. Everyone wants to see it, touch it. So the video does really accomplish showing, how the product's made, the quality, the craftsmanship. So that we use it on a website. We use it on, the Facebook pages.
How long are most of the videos?
Really just a couple minutes.
Yeah.
2 minutes max.
Yeah. And we've done some stories on how to put videos on your website or social media. Doesn't always have to be you talking. It could be the employee who had an idea for a new product. It could be your employee who runs the mailroom and gets the shipments out. It could be one of your customers. Put a customer or a client on a video talking about how they use you. Questions? You want to get the attention of the people with the mics. Yeah, over here. Excuse me. Well, Jonathan here, you want to get the attention of the people with the mics. Okay, I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Matt Budd. I'm National Chairman of the Financial Executives Networking Group, which is an international organization of CFOs, controllers, and treasurers. I have about 48,000 people registered with me. My question is mostly for Susan and Dan. How do you keep garbage out of your master database? An example would be LinkedIn. LinkedIn has now created over the last couple of years endorsements. And to me, I've been endorsed for skydiving and I honestly don't do it. There's a lot of endorsements that I've received because I know so many people that I honestly don't do, and I assume that that's a garbage element of LinkedIn. And both of you are running databases of various kinds. Yeah. How do you keep garbage out of your master database?
So keeping data clean, if you will, is a different way to ask that question, is incredibly hard. Data intrinsically, I think, is messy when you get to large data sets. So, if we're looking at data for GPS readings for a vehicle as it's traveling through the city that we want to analyze, or we're looking at data for how people are using the app or how they're responding to different marketing campaigns, it's inherently messy, and I think there's no way to really keep the data out, the garbage, as you call it, out, at least the way we've experienced it. I think you need to build analysis strategies, if that's your interest, to sort through the data, figure out what actually is valuable to you, what makes sense, which insights you can extract that are really correct, and which are really being driven by spurious bits of data that have penetrated your database.
Want to pick up the pace, get questions in. One over here, then over here, Jonathan, and then over there. Yeah.
Hey there, Robert Redmond from Team Digital Promotions. Quick observation, we were talking about partnerships earlier. Don't know if you guys just all met, but a great partnership would be a Zillow driven open house beer crawl serviced by Via. So if we can make that happen, I think we have a lot of people in that. I want to change the topic, though, because we talked a lot about that kind of stuff. Curious what you guys do and what you did starting out with Zillow to really generate talent, get talent in the doors. It's one of the things that we have challenges with as a promotions agency. You would think, wow, everybody's coming. But in the area that we're in, it's difficult sometimes to drive the right talent. And
Your
big
employees or your clients' employees? Which do you mean?
Employees for us.
Your employees.
So
Okay.
whether
Good.
they be
Yep.
developers,
Yep.
creatives, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think similar to how you get your business, our best employees are referrals from our best employees. So we give referral money, right? We really encourage, you love it here, you're the best advocate, brand ambassador for us. You know the right people who would be good people to work here. Like, go out and bring them here. Do the selling for us.
Yeah.
That's our #1 channel.
Anyone else? Motivate employees.
Well, I was going to say, in terms of attracting talent, one of the things that we do is we do a very intense interview process where we actually make the person work with us. So for our head brewer, we flew in 3 different brewers. I made them spend 2 days with me. We did a brew on our nano brewery that we have. So that was really important because we got to see, was this going to be a good cultural fit, but we also got to really test her talent. Charlotte worked for us one summer through an internship through her school, so we got to spend 3 months with Charlotte, working with her before we hired her. So we're big believers in somehow, and this goes with our salespeople too. Our salespeople ride with us before we hire them. Real big into like almost like tryout period, if you can. If you can figure out a way to do it, whether it's a couple hours or a day or couple months.
Yep. Yeah. And Daniel, you have a pretty good-sized staff of people who seem very eager to me, the ones I've talked to.
Thanks.
How was that?
Yeah, I think so. The same things have been said here. Referrals. The way I at least talk to all of everybody at VIA is that it is their primary job is to recruit other people, other great people. That's their top priority. Hiring is absolutely our top priority. And the other piece is, and that applies to me and to them, is to utilize your network, because I think it's coming in through referrals. So your network is never tapped out. You always want to keep coming back to it. Your situation changes and their situation changes, and you've always got to be thinking about who do you know who's great, who can come work for you. Ask the people who work with you, ask your friends, ask your wife, ask anybody who you know. And I think that's the best way to bring people in.
That's a good question. It doesn't get. I hear business owners talk about it, but doesn't often get brought up here. Motivating employees. Has anybody here? Speaking of one way of motivating, has anybody here raised pay lately? Had to or willingly? It's still pretty limited. Still pretty limited.
Yeah, and just to add to that too, what we see for a larger company is now employees' pay is still obviously important, but culture has become this buzzword that people really gravitate towards, and culture isn't free food. That's superfluous culture. Those are perks. But culture is about how companies make decisions, who's part of those decisions, who the leadership is, where the company is going, where the vision is. We see a lot more people who have those larger questions, and yes, they love free lunch on Tuesday, but they really care about how the business is run and where they fit into that.
But they've got to pay their rent in New York City, too.
Yeah, and we pay them enough to do that and to eat, yes.
Right, and to eat. I talked to someone here today who could remain anonymous, though, who told me that he just paid far more than he'd ever paid for a position to bring in somebody from a big company with a big name to his business. Raising pay, I'll get right here. Raising pay and raising prices is important. And I want to get to David Lewis of the CEO Roundtable on Operations Inc., because I promised that we would, on the air, address this point. David mentioned to me a way of raising prices and not losing customers. And I said, you've got to tell us about that. What's that trick?
Good morning, Joe. So back in 2009, when our clients were leaving, like most of our businesses had that issue, we had one type of resource that we were providing in our consulting business, and we're an HR outsourcing and consulting firm. And what we realized was that 70 to 80% of the work that person was doing could be done by a level of resource below them. So all of our hiring in 2009 was at that level now. We went back to clients and we said, listen, we can introduce a new person to be managed by the top person, but as a result, we can bring the price down by about 30% for the exact same services. And they applauded, and they said, great, bring these people in. And as long as we kept the people who were at the top busy, which we managed to do, we wound up bringing in that new layer. Now we have 4 different layers, and that strategy continues to propagate. We're able to essentially bring clients different levels of resources, and that's been our growth strategy, so that we can give them the expertise for the bite-sized piece that they need at that particular price level versus taking someone who's very expensive and have them do work that could be done by someone who's much less expensive.
So it's bite-sized premium, and you're doing more of that business, and then since your costs can be lower, you're lowering prices that you essentially were having overqualified people do. I guess that's what it is.
Right, because the senior
They
person...
were overqualified.
Senior person's costing us a lot more money. Junior person's costing us a lot less. But because of the nature of human resources being over 70% administrative, that junior person who costs us less can also be billed out less. And the best part about it is, in true dollar profit, we make more money per hour off of the junior person than we do off of the senior person. So I'm bringing a client a lower rate, and I'm actually making more money in the process.
Did it take a leap of faith to see if when you cut those prices, you were going to make it up with more premium work? Did it take a while to happen?
Well, it wasn't very popular with the senior people, I will tell you that. Right. Because they didn't like the idea that I was going to be cutting those hours out from under them. So it took a little bit of time to be able to ensure that we had more work to fill their plates. So it took over a year for us to be able to implement. But at the end of the day, it worked. Joe, if I could I want to just throw one other thing out, because this video thing I think is key that you touched on. So we have 2 videos, actually 3 up on our website. One is to show people how we train, one is to show them about our business. But the third is a culture video that was designed for our career page. It's designed to show prospective employees what it's like to work at our office. That video is seen 10 times more than any of the other videos, not because we hire, but it's by prospective clients who get to really learn what type of organization they potentially be partnering with, because they really get to see those people in their element versus just hearing me sell on what it is that we do.
Isn't that interesting? It's the clients looking at what it's like to work here. Again, what it's going to be like to work with us. Isn't that interesting? Right over here. Yep, right here, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Joe. My name is Rich Conti. I put media positions on ferry boats. Thank you, Joe, for keeping this relevant and exacting to people in this room, that don't understand a lot of the conceptual new apps that pop up every couple of months or so.
Yeah, thanks.
And my question is a general question. What is the importance of content to video, to everything you put out there? In my business, if it's not content, you're losing everybody. So perhaps that's a general question, Joe, and you might want to kick that off.
Well, I'll tell you one thing we were taught in journalism when I was coming up that might apply, is that, how did this go? When people are looking at television, as it was at that time, video, 80% of what they take is from the picture. The words only account for 20% of what they remember. That the video, the photograph, the image is so overpowering over content. I guess, and that's the challenge for TV writers, the real good ones, who can make their content as compelling as the images. Yeah. Jonathan, and over here. Hi.
Thanks, Joe, and thanks for bringing this great panel to us here in Stamford. My name is Sarah Tucker. I'm new with First County Bank, and this question is mostly for Connor, but I think that the other 2 can chime in, Dan and Susan. I like your approach as the trusted advisor. We also try to take that approach at First County. I'm the director of business banking there, so I'm very familiar with dealing with small businesses. So my question is, the craft brewery business has just been burgeoning, growing incredibly. There's so much competition out there. How do you determine if this is sustainable? Or is it just a trend? And I'm sure that, you know, a lot of business people are asking the same thing about their own businesses. So how are you going to keep your finger on the pulse there?
Good one.
A lot of it has to do with listening to our customers, which obviously all of us really need to do. You know, we are working at the ground level every single day in our accounts. We're listening to people as they come into the brewery's tasting room and talk to us about our beer. We're also paying attention to kind of what's happening in the bigger picture, right? We only operate in 6 counties in Connecticut and then Westchester County. So our geographic base is our footprint's very small. So for us, it's just keeping our ears open and making sure that we're staying ahead of what our customers want, but also making sure that we continue to add value in every account we go into. I think what we've seen a lot lately is there's been a major shift from these bigger craft guys to people like us. So, you know, when you go and you come to Stamford or you go, you know, somewhere nearby, you're visiting the area, you're having a beer that you can't get anywhere else. You can get Sam Adams everywhere you go, every airport lounge across the world, you name it. So, you know, we're paying attention to the fact that people are going more local. They're going, you know, super high quality. And so for us, again, it's making sure that we don't ever stop focusing on the quality of the product, but we don't stop ever focusing on what that customer wants.
The trend is with you. That makes a big difference. You're hot. That makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I was also going to add to that, I think we also need to be careful. Often our customers don't know what they want and what they like. And that's, I always go back to, if Steve Jobs went out and asked everybody what they wanted in a phone, they would say smaller, larger battery life, and cheaper. And now we have $600 phones that are larger than we ever imagined, that run out of batteries in 12 hours, and we think it's the greatest thing we've ever had. So I think we need to also, and that's where the innovation comes in, is you have to listen, but then you also have to put some resources and time to try and pushing the envelope in other areas to see if maybe some things you can change behavior. Or everyone's like, yes, pumpkin ale's my favorite, but maybe there's, you know, some other like pomegranate seed ale. Everyone's like, that sounds terrible, until you make it and they try it and they love it. So you have to find that balance between pushing the envelope and delivering, of course, what they want.
I think you remind me of a good point. I wanted to ask Daniel on competition and sustainability. Do you have a plan? What if Uber decides tomorrow, we don't see this guy here in New York coming after our business, we're going to start our own shared ride service? What happens then to you?
So, I just want to add one thing to that previous question. I think a lot of times these trends, when after they've happened, we look back and we think, wow, that happened awfully quickly. But as they're happening, they actually happen very gradually, and it's really hard to tell that these changes are happening. I think in our industry, for example, you know, at some point, you guys may disagree, but I think we're going to have driverless cars. And then when we look back, we'll say, wow, that happened. Yeah, all of a sudden we had driverless cars, but it's actually happening very slowly over time. You had cruise control, you're gonna have semi-autonomous driving, and you need to be able to recognize those trends in whatever business you're in and understand what's happening to you. You know, I saw a survey where in many states the most popular job is a truck driver, and many of those people may not have a job in 10 years, right? There may not be any more truck drivers. And so I think we need to look at how these things are sort of changing and try to analyze them and prepare ourselves. You need to look at your own business.
That's a great point. It seems fast, and it often was gradual, actually. Right. And that leaves people saying, you know, I always knew, because they're seeing it. But how about if Uber competes with you?
So, you know, in our case, we definitely see ourselves as very distinct from Uber. We're sort of a public transit solution where Uber is looking at a private car solution. I think when you look at a question like this, it's, say, true for any software business. You go into software, you say, well, why won't Google do this? Why won't Facebook do this? What happens if they do it? And if you worry about that too much, you become paralyzed and you don't do anything. On the other hand, you need to be prepared, you need to think about it, and I think the key thing is to understand how you're different. What is it that you've done that makes you unique versus, you know, if you're a small brewery versus the big brewery, if you're a small lender versus a big lender, how are you unique? What is your value proposition? What makes it very hard for that big competitor to come in and do exactly what you're doing? And, you know, we can get into the answers, but I think that's the core of it.
Or you sell your business to a bigger competitor. That's not unusual. And a lot of people don't want to do it, but I mean, it's an option, Connor.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump on that. I mean, when I initially started raising money for my business a number of years ago, part of the business plan was dedicated to, how, if someone were to basically take our idea and establish a brewery with a lot more money 2 blocks away from us, were we just going to wilt and die, or could we actually still thrive? And the thing that we always focused on is we want to make you feel a certain way, right? We want you to interact with our product and be inspired by what we do. And so for us, it's the thing that people couldn't copy. They could copy our beer, they could copy our location, right? They could copy our name, but they couldn't copy the way that we make you feel. And if you can Google this, Danny Meyer from Union Square Hospitality has a lot of great quotes out there, but he talks a lot about that, and it all comes down to customer service. It comes down to those local connections that you're making. We're actually working on something with some local farms. We're going to be making a maple bacon stout, and we're trying to get maple syrup from one farm, bacon from another. And so we're basically inserting ourselves into a community and building communities all around us and within our kind of company. So if you build those strong relationships and you build that sense of community and you make people feel a certain way about you and your product, that's something that absolutely can't be copied.
That's great. Talk about paying attention to detail. Whatever you just all rattled off with the local farms is impressive. We're not going to hear that from a big company. Tim, do I have to leave a few minutes at the end, or can I run it right up till 10? Do we have a drawing?
Right before 10. We have just a little bit.
We have a drawing.
Yeah.
Thank you, First County Bank. That's a good question, but I just want to get in a couple more. Let's go quickly, get as many as we can in rapid fire, because we promised 10 to 10. Yeah.
Good morning. Andrew Reynolds with iCracked, mobile phone repair and trade-in service.
Oh.
I just have a two-part question for you guys. First part, do any of you have partners or employees that may be located in another part of the country? And if so, if you could shed some light on what works best, to collaborate, make sure everybody stays motivated and get things done.
Good one.
So we have half our team in Israel. We do all of our technology development in Israel, and technology is really our core, and the other half of the team is in New York. So communicating across the ocean is one of our challenges, and I think there are two pieces to this. One thing is before you go and do that, you have to ask yourself why you're doing it. Is there really an advantage to having the team far away? Because there are lots of disadvantages. To us, there was the quality of the talent, the technology talent we could recruit in Israel. And if you do end up in that situation, I think the key is, and it gets to what Susan was saying earlier about the culture, you have to make the different offices or the different teams feel part of one team. When you're making decisions that are big decisions, you have to make sure that if it's happening in one office, that the other office feels like they're part of that decision-making process, that they understand what's happening, that they don't feel like they're just service providers for the other part of the company, that they feel engaged. We send our entire Tel Aviv team to New York every year, so they can spend at least 2 weeks or a week or two with us here in New York and experience the product. So you think of different initiatives like that to make sure everybody's connected. Those are the ways we tackle it.
Yeah. Let's get questions.
Joe.
Where are we? Hi.
Hey, Joe.
Hi.
I'm Patrick O'Grady. I have a real estate startup called Agent Bright. I'm in the slog. Agent Bright. We're an app that basically helps real estate agents organize their business, and we exist because of the opportunity that Zillow has provided. So a lot of people look at Zillow, Trulia, they say this is disruptive, this is change, but for us, change is good. Because agents have, you mentioned Yelp, and SEO is the way to go if you're a small business person. If you're an agent, it's referrals and ZTO, Zillow Trulia optimization. So that's what our app does.
I love it.
I'm looking for a front-end JavaScript developer, so if anyone has any referrals, and also just anyone who has startup experience that wouldn't mind me buying them a beer and bending their ear, picking their brain for a little while. We're starting to grow, and my question is, you've all been kind of on both sides of the coin where you started out in the fuzzy bunny slippers and now you have successful, sustainable businesses and the positions you're in. And I was wondering, what are some of the lessons you learned when you were growing, when you started to hire people, when the team started to grow and you now had to change what you did on a day-to-day basis and start managing people more?
It's a great question, Sean. And you come from a real estate, Patrick, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You come from a real estate
Joe and
family.
I are neighbors. We see each other.
Right?
Yes,
Which
real
is
estate's a
interesting
family
as well,
business.
and you had an interest, and you're taking this in a completely
Saw
new
the
way.
opportunity because Zillow
Right.
has completely changed how agents do business.
And come up and introduce yourself to Susan afterwards.
Absolutely.
So your question was, as you grew.
Yeah.
Yep, and we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah, it's actually a challenge I have literally every single day, where the larger your organization grows, the less work product you're supposed to be doing. And literally 80% of my job is supposed to be motivating, recruiting, and retaining all the people who are under me, and making sure they're making good decisions and the culture is there and all of that, there are lots of days where I'm so excited when I do get to dig into a spreadsheet and kind of what I would say go back to my roots and like sit down and put a presentation together or whatever it is. So it's difficult, and I think good leaders have to evolve into that role, and I think that's what keeps companies growing and moving forward. And when you see those leaders who kind of can't get themselves out of the weeds and still are like back in there, trying to help the new layer of employees do things the way they did things, you have to be careful. And I think also some people realize that maybe you are more of an entrepreneur than a manager, right? And you are more of an entrepreneur than, entrepreneur is a different type of leader. There's leading people and there's leading product. So you just have to think about all of those things. But culture and businesses change every single day, and people have to evolve with that every single day. And the leader you were of a 10-person company versus a 20-person, 50 versus 100 is a different type of leader. And you have to make sure that you're doing that and you have the right people in place who are also growing with the company. And then part of it is being the manager and leader is making those really hard decisions, like you gotta let people go. You can't keep bad people. If they're not performing, they might have been the right person when you hired them 6 months ago. Company's different now, like they haven't grown into the role, like you gotta cut bait. And that's part of also being a leader and a manager and having the people under you who will also do that with their people. And that will keep you propelling.
We will close with that impassioned, articulate description of managing your business as it grows. Good luck. Thank you very much, everybody.